Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we're looking at the Telltale Batman game. Um, so this was one of Telltale's last series was Batman. What's interesting here at the beginning is you get struck by a logo that shows the kind of early gray Batman suit from the comic books and the blue Batman suit from early comic books, and kind of the slightly beginnings of the dark Batman suit, but nowhere really close to, I guess, the last 3 or 4 different reiterations of Batman where tends to be particularly dark, uh, and and just all dressed in black. And then you get this completely different art style in the game where it is just this Telltale style, for lack of a specific term. Generally, I would describe it as a comic book texture over 3D models. Um, I would call it ever so slightly a soft CGI look. Uh, it's a little bit low polygon um, as far as 3D models by modern standards. It has just a few fewer polygons than you would expect, and I imagine some of that has to do with just the lack of ability of the Telltale tool, particularly as these games kept getting made and the Telltale engine just not really being able to handle things. You obviously have a lot of shadow, a lot of heavy line and ink marks that have that feeling of coming out of a comic book. And oddly, as far as comic book spin off games, nobody else has really tried to emulate that. If anything, this art style is most compatible with something like the Borderlands series. So that's interesting. Apparently, the Telltale servers are somewhat still enabled. That being said, the advertisement here just says join the conversation. So that feels like that's just a default setting. Um, as far as settings go, you do have a cloud save still, whereas other versions of Telltale games have felt like they didn't really work anymore. Interesting that there's a fight action button in a Telltale game, which have been almost 100% up until this point. Just pick your dialogue games with maybe some walking around. Audio video wise, everything here just started this by default, with the slight change here that I have. The subtitles were off. I've turned them on. I have them set to um, set to the large. We may change that. As far as brightness goes, what's interesting there is I can see the bat symbol, but I couldn't see it originally. Let me go back into that. 1, 2, 3. No. There must be some kind of adjustment happening on my new monitor, because I totally could not see that until several seconds later. Um, I have been having some strain on my eyes lately, but it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So either they've programmed this where, well, let's just try this. We will set the brightness to the highest, and frankly, even at the highest setting, it's still incredibly dark. Now I'm going to jump back in here and just count until I see the bat symbol. 1. Yeah, it fades in, but it was only like 1 second. You clearly only have like about 10 options here also. I'd almost make an argument to play it this way. but let's just leave it by default. Now, that is not the most difficult question. There is a minimal option. They did add those to Telltale Games where you just hide the prompts and user interfaces, which that's interesting. See, even in that background with Batman's eyes glowing, when it switches between, I assume, Bruce Wayne and Batman, his eyes glow in this weird square shape, which just does not make sense. Yeah, it shouldn't be a square there. It should be obviously round. And the about is just going to be just like software code and copyright. Kind of weird that that is hidden under settings. Settings changed. Let's just restore everything to the way it was. Yeah. What did I change? Because now the glowing eyes are back to glowing eyes. So something I changed apparently just glitched it. Yeah, that looks way better. I wonder if there have been other cases where I played a Telltale game and it's been glitched the whole time. There definitely have been a couple of cases where I played a game and it's been glitched the whole time. Extras wise, we have crowd play, which I assume would be some kind of Twitch thing. No, not a Twitch thing. You'd have to go to the website. Interesting. So that's an interesting idea. Certainly. And it makes sense. It probably wouldn't have saved Telltale as a company, though. Like, they were just bleeding money, and the license of Batman probably was the most expensive license they could possibly have gotten. Because at least the previous games that have been licensed were things like The Wolf Among Us, which is just a much lesser known comic book series, or The Walking Dead, which, while popular, still a very lesser known series, where Batman has movies and TV shows, and obviously that would cost way more. There's a codex here, which at the very beginning here may just straight up tell you the basic of, like, Bruce Wayne's parents are dead. Here's your butler, here's Bruce Wayne, here's Catwoman, here's the Commissioner Gordon. Let's just click on one and see. Yeah. Just the basic stuff as far as Batman, in case you just don't know. Oh, this is supposed to be Harvey Dent. Well, I can already tell you that a lot of these people look completely different from any way I've ever seen them before, and I've seen them a lot in Batman games. Even Catwoman's face is a lot slenderer. Actually, that idea makes a lot of sense, that if she's supposed to be cat-like, that her face would be long and slender. James Gordon here. I'm also noticing that a lot of these guys feel like they have really broad shoulders. Like, just incredibly, wildly broad shoulders. And then Arkham Asylum's going to be mentioned, because of course. And then Wayne Enterprises is going to be mentioned. It did occur to me the fact that Wayne Enterprises has been teased in the first two of the Batman Arkham Asylum games I've played. Or the two. I kind of missed a side game that I'll have to go back and play later. So it'd be weird to not actually make it into Wayne Enterprises in that game series. In this game series, I think we probably will see it. And there's no telling how many more of these codex things will unlock. So that's pretty much all the setup I think we need to know. Now comes the agonizing thing. It almost makes sense to have created the Shadows edition of this game. It doesn't really make sense to sell it as DLC. It clearly was a case of them just trying to get as much money as possible. But because Telltale Games are really designed to only encourage you to play them through once, and whatever choices, dialogue, actions you make are just the experience you're going to have, there's really not a lot of replayability, which is kind of crazy because, like, the Walking Dead Telltale series really feels like there should be multiple playable sections. There's entire sections that go completely differently, or at least feel like they'd go completely differently if you did play them a second time. But I could never convince myself that I wanted to change the events and change my choices. Most people, once they make a choice, are stuck with that choice forever. So maybe with a remastered kind of visuals, it would make sense to play as Shadows, the Shadows edition. That being said, I don't think I can play the Shadows edition first time through. And arguably, that means maybe I'll switch over to the Shadows edition if we can jump between the two. But otherwise, I'm just going to have to play the game in the original art style and see it as it is. I would say the idea of giving you something that is kind of pretended like it's been remastered and redrawn, while not really calling it a remaster and that being an excuse to play the game a second time, is interesting, certainly. But they've effectively made this really difficult decision for people. A lot of people won't even know what the Shadows Edition is, which I haven't even explained what it is. And when you highlight it, it doesn't explain what it is either. Basically, it makes the game hyper contrasty. Almost everything is black or white. It gets rid of all the color, which is interesting. And there are some variants of comic books that are like that, where the color has just not been inked in. Although, in all fairness, I think the variants of comic books that are like that, more often than not, were sold that way because they didn't have time to finish the inking, the coloring of it. And that really is a gimmick that wouldn't have been done for decades previous of the point when this game would have come out. I'm gonna just click this and see. Switch to the Shadows Edition and restart the main menu. Okay, sure, let's do that. And this will at least allow me to show the main menu. And see, here you have like Detective Comics in the gray Batman, and then here you have the blue-gray Batman. To the right you have a darker Batman, then you have a dark gray Batman. But they've shown you maybe 4 or 5 different Batmans there, but it's really the first 4 or 5 decades of Batman, ignoring the next 3 or 4 decades of Batman. And this intro doesn't really look well. So here's your contrast in the Shadows Edition. It just takes all the color out of the game. And it probably, to my eye, doesn't look like it really does anything else. It doesn't feel like it actually is improving the graphics anyways. It doesn't feel like this is all of a sudden 1080p and previously it was 720p being scaled up to 1080p. For this menu, we're not going to run into any frame rate issues either way. Yeah, and looking just at this menu, I frankly am kind of upset that I paid extra for the DLC to get the Shadows Edition. And I'm glad this did not become a standard thing, certainly, where games would start to sell skins for the entirety of a game, which are really just visual filters. Like Resident Evil 4 had visual filters, and plenty of games had visual filters that would turn a game to look a little bit different, have like a film noir effect or a black and white effect or a grainy effect, things like that. And that's feels like all they've done here is taken the saturation of color and turned it down. Yeah, this looks way better. Even in the darkness, like just being able to have the opportunity to contrast Bruce Wayne and having him lit up makes a lot more sense. So, okay, that's more setup than we needed. Let's hop into the game. Okay. So, immediately, I guess you're being told to buy a season pass. And you're getting go to Telltale Games or look at the Wolf Among Us. And this art style for Wolf Among Us is more flat, but also more colorful. Arguably, Batman doesn't need to be in 3D, and they probably blew the budget a little bit from that. So, yeah. Do I really need to see an advertisement for the season pass if it's already purchased, or can you just do people the favor of removing that? And I won't go to the right for fear of that adding some spoilers, but it looks like there's at least 5 episodes, which seems about right, but this could be fairly short as far as the story goes anyways. Says Bruce Wayne navigates the treacherous waters of Gotham politics as a series of shocking allegations surface while Batman confronts Gotham's most notorious crime boss. Okay. So, interestingly, none of the other Telltale games had any kind of customization. So we can have blue bat tech, red bat tech, which feels wrong, yellow bat tech, which looks ugly, purple bat tech that looks bad. You know, none of that really looks good, and none of it quite feels right for Batman. If anything, the yellow belt and Batman and the contrast there would be the canonical smarter move. There's, to my knowledge, never been any purple relation. Red feels too much like Red Hood or Red Robin, and it feels a little too evil. Blue, though, feels a little too much blue, such as Dick Grayson. So I think we'll just stick with blue, but honestly, I don't like any of them. And again, this feels like they are giving you options, which is nice in a Telltale game. But they are incredibly, incredibly superficial options that don't matter. We're going to put a filter that changes this color. We're going to basically chroma key this one color into a different color. Meanwhile, the real customization in a Telltale game would be the choices in dialogue and actions. The series adapts to the choices you make. The story is tailored to how you play. That second sentence has always been a lie. The story does not tailor to how you play, because if you play badly, it does not get easier. If you're playing well, it does not get harder. That's the only way I could take that second sentence. In reality, Telltale games don't do anything to tailor towards the way you play. They sometimes remember and respond based on actions. This might be a little quiet. So I'm really liking the widescreen with the top and the bottom black bars. I'm really liking the amount of color and graphics here, but I am kind of hating the frame rate here. It is chunky, to say the least, in a cutscene.
You think he's gonna show? Bring the whole goddamn place down. Stay focused. We'll be out of here before anyone can stop us.
We may have to immediately try and drop down the graphics because this is unacceptably bad.
Christ. Move in.
Yeah, I suppose I'll just gonna have to assume that this is quiet to the you as much as it is quiet to me.
Sent 3 home in an ambulance. The rest in body bags.
No wonder the cops want him dead.
Hey, you ever seen him?
Yeah, Gotham Zoo. With all the other flying animals.
Let's see if this is working. Maybe it's working, maybe it's not. And here we have the QuickTime events. Really not doing anything other than a tutorial, but honestly, for a Telltale game, this tutorial is actually pretty good. And see, I don't know if I actually hit the prompt there correctly, or whether he was supposed to kick him in the face. No, I guess you weren't supposed to kick him in the face.
Can't keep doing this.
I have to.
No one else will. Every drop of blood, everything you've sacrificed. The city is safer now. It's made you a target. People will keep you in the crosshairs until you're shot out of the sky. Criminals in the city. They need something to fear.
I guess the idea here is to answer as Batman.
Shit!
And I assume these are events that are happening at different times.
Get out.
Like, probably the Bruce Wayne stuff is going to be at the end of the game, and the Batman stuff is mostly going to be at the beginning of the game, and maybe they'll meet up in the middle and even cross over at some point. And see, that was a right stick prompt, not a left stick prompt, so I didn't even hit it correctly on the first try. I can see that there is an immediate problem here with playing as Batman compared to playing as Lee in the Walking Dead game, in that Lee as a character is somebody you just don't really know. He was a completely new character that had no established thing. Wow, this is like a white Batman suit, it feels like, which very rarely does Batman wear a white suit, just in a couple of stories. This definitely feels a lot like what cutscenes from Arkham Asylum would have felt like if they had been better animated and you hadn't really cared about the cared about any consistency between the gameplay. And arguably a Batman game
You're trying to create a myth?
is
Be careful you don't turn into a monster.
is the kind of game that you would just want to mostly have told to you in a storyline. I am noticing here there is a problem if it's going to just save every time I make a decision, or if it's going to save to a cloud. Is it really worth it to... I wonder if I didn't have to slam him. Interestingly, I have this meter that's filling up to, I guess, prove my true Batman-iness. Yeah, it does kind of feel like this whole thing is more just an interactive comic than an actual game. Let's see, A and right trigger. Of course, the other problem with Batman is that you're constantly just brutalizing people.
Didn't your mother teach you to knock? Behind you, big boy.
And so is this the first time Batman in this canon has seen Catwoman? Because, like, as someone who kind of knows the stories of Batman, you have half the idea here. You don't want to actually catch her. So I could see myself playing away from it. And actually not trying to catch her.
You want to be intimidating, you're succeeding. Criminals are becoming afraid of you, so are the police.
It's a scare tactic now. Just a performance.
Yeah, but I feel like the one line of dialogue I chose there led to 3 new lines of dialogue
Without a
playing. And
That doesn't belong to you.
I chose that choice
You broke the law. Here I am.
is simply to...
shit. The law. Don't tell me that's why you do all
I only made that choice because that's what I think Bruce Wayne would...
suit, tie on a
Um,
cape. Most people dressed up like that end up in Arkham.
No one else will. I'm the only one who gets the job done.
Sounds lonely. Gotta admit it though. You give a good chase. One day you might actually catch me.
Tonight.
Don't you know not to corner a wild animal? It's dangerous.
Then let's put you in a cage.
See, you can even hear him
That.
with a voice changer. But yeah, I'm definitely not liking the save here. I may just straight up choose the minimal interface. But at this point I'm gonna have to lower the resolution because it's a little too frame ratey. I'm gonna have to turn up the audio because it's not balanced. In a funny way, it's not balanced at all, even between the music and the voices. Oops. It's like saving every time I make a mistake, too. Which, that just feels like that is too much saving. And see, almost certainly these two are going to become
I wouldn't be so sure.
partners by the end of the story, and by one of the more recent Batman stories, he's straight up just married to Catwoman. And yeah, that would be about the 3rd time in comics Batman's been married to somebody or seriously dated somebody. Oops, hit the wrong button, and the game really does not care if you make mistakes at all, as long as you even slightly feel like you hit the right buttons. It seems to. Did he put a tracker on her? That would be the more contemplative Batman. This feels like a much more action Batman compared to.
Why go to all that trouble for this?
Shit.
Like, for a Telltale game.
Can't be killed. You, however, are flesh
And you can see there's just like no transitions between these jump cuts.
God damn it!
Where it would make a lot more sense to.
No, wait!
It would make so much more sense to have it fade out and fade in at the very least. And would her interface stuff be purple? Oops, maybe killed her. I wonder if her interface equipment would have been purple if I had chosen something else. And so we're getting to the point in the end of the scene, which is probably not the entire first episode, where we're going to see how Batman ends up all cut up. And we're seeing how Gotham has a lot of really tall buildings.
I was wrong about you catching me. Not sure if it was for my sake or yours.
Don't struggle or you'll fall.
Oh, but that's what you crave. The struggle. I know men like you. Bye, Bat.
And so she swings away with her own grappler. Nope, she stole your grappler.
Step out of the shadows and be Bruce Wayne tonight.
Oh, that's a much harder fight.
Don't let tombstones be your family legacy.
Well then. Time to save the city.
So, fairly long intro. Like 15 minutes, possibly. Just to get through that first part. Can we hit pause here? And let's just try and adjust some things. AV. Music needs to go down. Let's go 3. Subtitles look great. Or look fine at large. Graphics. Ambient occlusion, I will turn down to high because that was the default. Maybe that's running into a problem. Let's see. I think we could potentially turn off depth of field if we have to, as we potentially just lower more and more things, with that very little being lost there. And then ambient inclusion, and then you'll start to see some real changes when you start to lower render quality and texture quality. We could turn off anti-aliasing, but that would be fairly noticeable too. We could also, if we get really desperate, lower the resolution. Now what I need to do is I need to be able to see that the mouse is over the window, and then hold down the Alt button because I have to set a program. And then when I do that, that lets me turn up the audio in total. And that may be about as high as I can get it. Okay. So that should let me have the audio a little bit louder. And then gameplay, display style, minimal. Really feels like there should have been a prompt at the beginning of the game to ask if you wanted the regular interface or minimal. I feel like previous Telltale games had done that. That would have been fairly easy. It would be nice if every game had a benchmark setting that actually worked when you tested out some settings, but that doesn't happen very often. Let's try this again.
A humble district attorney like myself is not used to such a ringing endorsement. Even one who cut Gotham's crime rate in half. For too long, this city has burned with corruption and greed.
I can't help but
under
think that the
Mayor
big
Hill's
chest
authority.
thing
I promise you, a vote
is
for Harvey
a
Dent
3D
is a
modeler
vote to finally put your
just
foot down.
really loving
Together,
the
stamp out the fire and save
ridiculous
our great
big
city.
chests of a certain era of comic books that
If only Mr. Wayne, my campaign's
really
largest backer, could have heard that
shouldn't
applause,
be
he
loved
would-
as much.
Well, there he
In all
is.
fairness,
Fashionable and fashionable
Arkham,
as
Batman and
always.
Arkham Asylum also has that same problem
Say
where
hi, Bruce.
Batman in his outfit is
Hi, Bruce.
Well, I tee him up and he knocks him down. That's how Mr. Wayne and I do business. Thank you.
Like,
Thank you again,
generally,
everyone,
I
for
can
your
understand
unwavering
Batman
support.
having a whole lot of padding and looking very big in the
Together,
chest.
we will
but-
change Gotham.
When you see Harvey Dent like this, it just doesn't make sense for a prosecuting attorney to be
Mr.
such a
Wayne,
big,
thank you for opening
broad-shouldered
your house
character.
Now, I know this is the biggest mansion in Gotham, but I don't think you got lost on your way here. Where were you? I know you prefer the brooding billionaire angle. So the sooner we make nice with the donors, the sooner everyone will leave you alone.
Just wanted to make an entrance.
Congratulations, you almost missed it. You are a pillar of this city and my campaign. I need you here, tuxedoed
The
and shaking
problem,
hands.
again, compared
Came
to
here tonight to see me.
compared to
See the Bruce
like The Walking
Wayne,
Dead,
am I right?
we know this relationship.
This shouldn't be painful.
We know
It's
that
not a kidney
Harvey
stone.
Dent
It's a little
and
FaceTime with
Bruce
potential
Wayne were
donors.
friends until they
Your
weren't,
face specifically
and
with the
and
mouth
Harvey
that's saying,
Dent
"Support
turns
Harvey Dent."
into Two-Face.
Grease, they're the wheels. And they're rolling in enough cash and votes to help make Gotham a place for families again.
I'm gonna
So
finish
just
the drink,
Put on your billionaire smile and don't punch it.
not because it's my choice, but because I
A
know
little liquid courage before facing your
I know that
adoring public.
Bruce Wayne pretends to be a
Listen, welcome
billionaire
to
playboy
Bruce.
who gets
Once I've
drunk and
turned this
sleeps
city
with a
around
lot
as
of
mayor,
women,
you'll be
so
a
you don't
hero
think of him
for
as
my
Batman.
campaign. Now
Like
all
every
you gotta do is
decision I'm
just
gonna
say
make
it.
in this game is
Terrible at those.
predestined.
It always makes me sound like a used car salesman. Which, for the record, I have not been since before law school.
All right. How about a new face for Gotham? Hmm?
Look at you. It's not half bad. I'm gonna use that. Bruce, I meant what I said. Together, you and me, we change Gotham. A city free from crime.
So,
where children can play
at
in
a
the
certain
streets
point,
That's what I want too.
I feel
Harvey.
like
You know how rough it is out there.
I'm just
We have to
toying
shake
with this
things up
world.
to make that happen.
It's like I'm an
Well, we
evil
can
puppet
start with a few
master going,
hands,
ha ha ha, I know where this is gonna go. I know Harvey Dent is gonna be Two-Face. I know Batman is gonna forever be alone fighting crime until the day he finally gets killed by somebody. I know Batman is gonna end up in some kind of romance with Catwoman. Like, it would have made
Mr. Wayne,
a
I'd like
lot
to
more
introduce you
sense
to
to play a
Bob and Regina
Batman series
Of course I know these two.
Hello,
around
Bruce.
Regina here is the chairwoman of
something
Wayne
that
Enterprises.
wasn't so established, at least like the Court of Owls,
I'll
because
admit
you
it,
could
Mr.
easily
Wayne.
have
I don't know Mr. Dent from a pothole on Main
have
Street.
like these
But I
two
trust
people on the
your-
left
You
be
believe in
members
Dent,
of the Court of
we
Owls,
believe
and
in you. After
we
all,
wouldn't know that.
Whoever you support is a reflection on you.
And we trust someone like you to lead this city to greatness.
Well,
And
thank you. But we're all
Like
here tonight
most
because we
Telltale
want to make a
games, it
difference.
really never
That's what
makes
it's
sense
going
to
take.
just stay silent.
Every single one of us. Not just me, not just Mr. Dent. Everyone.
Right. Of course.
Old families like ours should flock together, you know, like birds.
You're preaching, dear.
No, it's
Yep,
true.
I think these
The Waynes and
literally
Yellow
are
Box reminders
two,
of the golden age of Gotham.
This city's luster faded
Two
years
members
ago,
of the
Mr.
Court of
Dent.
Owls.
Look at Gotham now. Murder in the streets, corruption in City Hall. That Cape Bat freak dealing out vigilante justice like it's the wild goddamn West.
Oh, Bobby, regarding Golden Age,
There-
since you're getting cranky in yours, there's always hope.
The
Forgive me for
champagne
being
flutes
blunt.
they're drinking out
One
of are
man can't
particularly
save the
silvery and
And it's a dangerous
shiny,
mentality to
and you,
think
you,
so.
you see that in a
That's how you
few
get
places here.
creeps like this Batman, or whatever it's called.
Well, I have to say I side with your wife on this, Mr. Zellerbach. Even a spark of hope can light the darkness.
Huh, an idealist with a bank account. He'll be broke before election.
So
day.
yeah, when I'm looking
I
in the
know Bruce
background
would
here,
gladly spend
I see some
every penny
shiny,
he has to
like,
fix this city.
shininess on
Don't doubt that
plates
for a moment.
and champagne flutes
And
and
don't
the
worry, though. I'm not
statue
doing
and the
this alone.
pearls and the lady in the
Bruce's
background
help.
and the jewels
We're
and the lady in the
replacing
background.
dangerously unsecure Arkham Asylum.
Feels like it's just
State-of-the-art mental health
inconsistent.
facility to help
Art
Gotham's most at-risk
styles.
individuals. It will be dedicated to Thomas and Martha Wayne, in the hopes that their fate.
I
Never
feel
be
like it
repeated.
would have made a lot
After
more
all
sense
your
for them
parents
to
did
just
this city,
stick with a flatter
to be
2D
killed in a
animation
botched
style.
robbery in some alleyway.
Kind of the problem
It was
though,
terrible.
also with a comic
Truly
book
terrible.
like Batman is
Tragedy like
everybody-
that at such a young age.
that is capable of working on Batman for DC.
Deranged man had gotten the right treatment. Maybe. Well, I don't like to think about maybes. And I'm sure you don't either.
Well, thank you. I wish my parents could be here speaking with you too.
And thank you, Bruce, for investing in the health of this city's future.
What's funny is I'm not really deflecting at all to
We're on
Mr.
our way.
Dent, and it didn't change the outcome at all.
Not saying I doubted you, but that went better than expected.
It is a night of ringing endorsements.
But yeah, it feels like they wanted this to have that Walking Dead Telltale visual style when it really doesn't make sense to have gone that direction.
Harvey Dent.
And if they were going to
Gotham's
go
next
that
mayor,
direction,
and eager to know you.
they would have.
Vicky Vale. Not interested. And reporter for the Gotham Gazette.
This is a private fundraiser, Miss Vale. No reporters allowed.
Well, you don't mind
If they were going to
stay
go
and
with a
ask
new
people
art
to
style,
stay
they
this way?
needed to go with new
You can ask
characters.
me whatever you want at the press conference tomorrow.
Actually, I'm here for Mr. Wayne.
Well, he certainly doesn't have any time either.
Tonight is strictly off the record. We can talk, but nothing gets written down.
I'm okay with that. I was just hoping to see what makes Bruce Wayne tick. This is quite the social event, Mr. Wayne.
Oh, come on now, it's so formal. Call me Bruce.
Well,
I wonder if there's going to be
going around
really
pleasing everyone
good
tonight.
break points
But
like the
How are you
Telltale
doing?
games. Even the later Telltale games, though, I
you
don't
should
feel
enjoy your own
like.
party before all the champagne runs out.
So
I'm
now,
doing
once
better.
again, I am playing as how I feel
I'll tell you,
Bruce
if all these
Wayne,
stuffed shirts weren't
who
around, I'd
is
give you the private tour.
secretly Batman, and the
Mr. Wayne,
idea is Bruce
you've
Wayne
got something
is
on
the
your collar.
false thing.
Is that blood?
Mm.
Yeah. It looks like.
Actually, it's lipstick.
Well, no wonder you were late. Say no more.
So yeah, Bruce Wayne
Master Bruce.
pretends to be a womanizer
Another guest
all the
has
time.
arrived.
I'm sure they'll find the bar.
You may want to greet this one personally, sir.
Carmine Falcone? Is the Dent campaign soliciting votes from Gotham's biggest crime family?
Falcone's never been convicted of anything except being a businessman who loves this city. Excuse us, Miss Vale.
Yeah. But I really just don't feel like I have freedom to make choices here like I did
And
in the
what kind of
Walking Dead
business do you think
series.
he's in?
The one that controls enough votes to get me into City Hall. This is the necessary evil of politics, Bruce. It's in the service of a better Gotham, for all of us. Look, at least hear him out before you kick him out. Falcone requested to speak with you directly. Maybe he can change your mind.
I'm just gonna stay silent on this one. I mean, in this game in particular, I
Normally,
may stay
wouldn't
silent.
associate with a guy like Falcone, but Gotham
Quite a bit.
can't survive another term under Mayor Hill. It'll be all-out war in the streets. Word of warning, Bruce? Play nice.
But Batman never compromises on anything.
You know, I've been in the market for a new house. Decent walk-up, sky-high ceilings, plenty of room for my cars. I think I'll
And
take it.
some of the backstory of
Though the decor offends my eyes. Oh, man, all flash, no class.
Let's talk privately, shall we?
Hey, I like this guy. Ready to do business
Yeah,
before
the
we even introduce us.
gangsters used to run
get to
Gotham
that.
before
Carmine,
arguably Batman
thank you for welcoming
evolved
me into your home.
around and created a whole bunch of supervillains.
You're a respectable man, I hear.
I'm just not gonna pick anything. And I guess by default that's a refusal.
Gentlemen, perhaps we'll all be more comfortable in the parlor. Follow me, if you will.
It would be very
You should know,
interesting.
Mr. Falcone,
There's
my
another
analysts
just
say we're raising
jump
trouble
cut.
with Mayor Hill. Hey, what's...
Private audience.
Come on, guys. Bruce?
You'll be fine out there, Harvey. I saw plenty of skirts to keep you busy for a few minutes. Have a drink, have a talk. I'll bring Bruce back to you soon.
Harvey stays with us.
A man's home is his castle. I respect that. Seen and not heard.
Whatever you...
What did I say?
But yeah, it would be interesting to just play as Batman and just start straight up beating up / killing
Mr.
the villains.
Attorney here wants to make
Just
sure the rules
a
but in my experience, there's the
Elseworld
law, and there's
or
the
what
rules,
if
right?
story.
You understand? And I'd rather see Harvey actually help this city instead of just saying he will. The man talks too much. Chaps my face with words.
Unlike most people I've met, Harvey actually has integrity.
Let's
He's
talk
trying
up
to make
Harvey.
Gotham a better place.
But see,
So am
it
I.
doesn't really
So
matter.
are you. Hey, we all carry this city on our broken backs. Might lighten the load if we do so together.
Like, as a video game, it would have been very interesting to bring him in this room and then to just beat up everybody in here
I got
and,
enough of that as is.
like, slit their throats.
So,
Just do something completely out of the realm of
chalk this for me. Be a pal. I can get Harvey the mayor's seat, or I can pull it out from under him. Whatever happened to being a gracious host?
yeah,
Okay, imagine.
like,
This
if Bruce Wayne pulled out a gun right now
These
and just
are
shot
all
these
my
people,
friends in Gotham.
that would be the ultimate
The
betrayal
businesses,
to Batman.
restaurants,
Batman
clubs, docks,
pretty
unions,
much
politics.
never uses guns, and particularly in main canon.
I make them all move, and I want to keep everything moving.
So if he just did that, that would
That's why I
establish
came here
this is a
tonight,
different
Lord.
story. You can do
Lovely
whatever
home.
you want.
Hoping to make a new friend. One who can help Mr. Dent see the light, if need be. Between your businesses and mine, I bet we employ half the city. Now, we got a good thing going, so I don't see why we shouldn't team up. For Gotham, for our city.
Look, I'm only talking to you because Harvey asked, trusting a friend to know what's best for Gotham.
Now that's a predicament. You listen to me, kid. I know somewhere inside that tuxedo you understand this situation. Money gets money. The risks, the alliances, the hidden costs. Your father knew which hands to shake.
They make his father out.
Break.
I think I'll have someone see you out.
They make his father out like he
Okay.
was just like this super influential, rich
People don't say
doctor.
no to me.
But I just don't know how he could have been that rich or that influential as a doctor
Master Bruce, your guest.
alone.
I recommend seeing
There are
him out.
definitely times where they've hinted at maybe the
Heed your butler's
Bruce Wayne's
advice,
father being corrupt, but
kid. Oh, and I'm no longer interested in buying
I
the
don't
house.
think he ever actually is
The
proven to
owner's
be
a
it.
prick, and he's gonna get what's coming to him.
I don't know if I've really ever seen a lot of interaction as Bruce Wayne. He rarely actually shows up in the comics anyways, and I haven't read a lot of them. So I don't know if Bruce Wayne really cares about people talking about his family or not. See, now this is weird because we're still with the minimal interface getting the save. So, can we... change the save file? Because I think I actually just straight up need to move the save file over. Which means maybe I need to just start the whole game over again. Wow, that would be weird. Main menu. Let's just go out here. And let's see if we can just move the save file. Copy this to this. I guess that works. And then I will just assume that cloud save is disabled if I press this, but maybe I don't even need to do it. Maybe we'll just stick with that. Yeah. And so, where are we here now? We have Hamilton Hill, a character I never had heard of before. We have Carmine Falcone. We have Vicky Vale. And some of these we're going to be spoilers a little bit. We haven't even seen this guy. That's supposed to be the Penguin? Wow, boy, does that not look like a Penguin character. And what choices have we made so far? I was with the majority, I guess, with 67.1% of players by getting Harvey in the meeting. That's literally the only main choice that matters, and inherently that is kind of the problem with a lot of Telltale games, is that it does get into this weirdness in which there are actually very little choices that matter. So I don't want to play a full section here, and I know we're going a little bit long, but let's play a little bit of Shadows Edition on a new save file. That way we can see what it would look like, and while we're doing that, let's just see what happens if I just intentionally don't press any buttons at all. Just a full don't interact at all. What is the default path if nothing happens? All right. Interesting that it's marked as new. We can see that from the looks of it, everything is the same. We are on save file 2, but it did log in to the thing anyways. Alright. So I think what I'd have to do is come over here to settings, save files, just press A to save file 3, and that resets some of the extras. And since we're goofing around, we'll change it to purple and see if that changes anything here. Yeah, it still feels like you're still getting that loading screen that is horribly placed. It really should be in the corner, not just to the right. And that has been a consistent problem with Telltale games. At least the last few Telltale games that were made. Some of the Telltale games that were the first few ones that were released, the Sam and Max games, have been getting re-released on Steam in the slight remastered version by a different company that bought out the rights, I assume, during the bankruptcy. So it's black and white with a few like bright colors, so reds and green lights, but
Get it open.
it doesn't feel like there's enough of that.
Bring the whole goddamn place down. Stay focused. We'll be out of here before anyone can stop us.
Yep. So it isn't just a general pass filter, it's something different that drains the color out of the entire series. What's interesting there is I just noticed his hand was bleeding. Gordon's hand was bleeding. Maybe that's supposed to be a hint for something that you wouldn't know until later.
Gordon, they're on the 52nd floor. I'm going in.
Hey, wait! Wait for backup!
Don't need it.
Take the stairs.
I heard stories, you know. Sent 3 home in an ambulance. The rest in body bags. No wonder the cops want him dead. Hey, you ever seen him?
Yeah, Gotham Zoo. With all the other flying animals.
So yeah, it's the exact same game. It's just they've taken a lot of color out, and by taking a lot of color out, they have made it seem like it's different. It definitely doesn't feel like they've remastered the graphics. Maybe by removing color, they've made it so it runs a bit smoother. Seems like you have no choice but to press A. And then seemingly you have no choice but to press B. So you can't 100% not push the buttons. In a lot of ways, the crowd play idea feels like it's something that was designed for things like Twitch. It seems like the exact same thing happened, whether I press the button or not. I could see some very low effort Twitch streamers just trying to have their fan base
No one else will.
play the games for themselves, much like Twitch plays Pokemon. Well, there's not actually a critic or a presenter content creator.
Until you're shot out of the sky. Strength and silence aren't enough to keep you alive.
So you get a different response there. But then you look at like the picture of the family, and because it's just black and white, you can barely even see the father.
Don't let it get out.
Sadly, there is a sequel to this Batman Telltale game, and I think I bought the shadow modes for that game also. And I don't think I'd ever want to play this. And see, this might be a great example of something that just loops forever until you play it. So pressing to the right with the left stick actually did work, but I'm actually surprised it worked. So both the left stick and the right stick are basically copies as far as these inputs. So what happens if I miss? Nothing. It happens anyways. We're really just completely deconstructing the fiction that is Telltale Games. They're not interactive at all. It doesn't matter if you press the buttons at all. In almost any case, the same thing happens. And at a certain point, this, I think, also highlights the idea of why a Batman interactive story fails, where a Batman made for TV, made for Netflix series would make a lot more sense. And maybe Telltale should have just straight up tried to become an animation company, although the Telltale engine isn't even that good at animation. Again, we're in a situation where I have to press a button. And yeah, that purple just does not make sense. Apparently the minimum interface doesn't copy over to a new save file, which I guess makes sense. And it's just a loop like this. It's just gonna spin around with them coughing. And the fact that these characters have masks on their face is almost certainly because they didn't want to animate mouths moving. So what happens if I do this? Like, unlike the earlier Telltale games like Jurassic Park, there seems to be no lose conditions or game over conditions, which that's a good idea.
To create a myth, but be careful you don't turn into a monster.
Sometimes you need a monster.
In a lot of ways, it feels like the dialogue that I chose really didn't even change the dialogue in any way. They just wrote 3 lines, and it one line echoes what your choice in the previous conversation would have been. Hey, we found a way to game over at least. Alright, let's actually get past this point. That way we can see Catwoman. I want to see her climb up interface and see if that's purple, and then I'll call it an episode. Some of these like face slams, I question if I actually needed to do it or not. But yeah, it definitely feels like everything up until this fight was simply preparation for this actual fight that mattered. A and right triggers. Kind of crazy. So I don't want to lose and end up.
Didn't your mother teach you to knock?
The dialogue is purple too, which seems a little weird.
Payday.
But see, that lock seems more red now, and maybe that's just Shadows mode. But see, she barely looks any different in Shadow mode, and she does have a red interface. So it does just pick an opposite color.
Stay where you are. You're under arrest.
And the first time you would get a game over in a Telltale game,
If you want to be intimidating,
you would
you're succeeding. Criminals are becoming afraid of you, so are the police.
It's a scare tactic, Al. Just a performance.
like, the first time you get a game over, you wouldn't want to risk ever getting a game over again, so
Without a scratch.
they really could put just a couple of game overs at the beginning of the game and then have everything else be
Here I am.
completely
The law. Don't tell me that's why you do all this.
like
Squeeze into a suit.
automated
tie on a cape.
in such a way that
Most
you
people
can't
dressed up
lose.
Like that end up in Arkham.
I do this for the thrill of it.
I'll show you a thrill. Gotta admit it though. You give a good chase. One day you might
Yeah,
actually
you pick a
catch
different
someone.
line of dialogue and it doesn't matter.
Don't
You
know
get
how to corner a
one
wild
specific
animal.
response
It's dangerous.
to what you say.
Let's put you in a cage.
Bring it, Bat.
Let's just see what happens now if we just press no buttons. Seems like you have to press A. Let's go with the Catwoman. I'm just gonna let Catwoman beat me up. Which, frankly, I think if Batman just let Catwoman beat you up, you would... She probably wouldn't be particularly interested in you. Yeah, compared to, like, the Arkham Asylum, or at least Arkham City,
Without a scratch.
the DLC on that at least gave you different costumes for the same characters.
You broke the law. Here I am.
Where this does something very different.
The law. Don't tell me that's why you do all of this. Squeeze into a suit, tie on a cape. Most people dressed up like that end up in Arkham.
Gotham needs a hero. Someone to hunt down people like you.
So that makes me what? A villain? Sounds fun. Gotta admit
So
it.
yeah,
You give a good chase.
it's just
One
like
day you might actually catch
you get
me.
one response line of dialogue, and then it cuts to a jump cuts to another angle, and
Put you in a cage.
and that jump
Bring
cut
it back.
then gets you back on track of them saying the exact same thing. And I guess as soon as you see the Batman symbol in the left, that's when you know the fight actually matters. And whenever you know the fight actually matters, then you know when it stops mattering, and that's when you should stop following the thing. See, he does like this power punch that break her glasses. Maybe you shouldn't do the power punches.
Over here. You getting this? Move us in closer.
See, we're still not quite there. And see, these final blows definitely feel like they are more takedown blows.
I wouldn't be so sure.
So then the question would be, what happens if I don't shoot her? Nothing, it just automatically gets to it. And we have a full Batman symbol. And maybe we played a little bit differently here and we broke her glasses, and we'll see her glasses broken for the rest of the game. And see, this is another A and right trigger thing. And see, in that specific spot, it makes a lot more sense for that to be colorful and not...
Why go to all that trouble for this?
Shit.
A myth can't be killed. You, however, are flesh and blood.
God damn it! I said don't shoot!
No! Wait!
Yeah, her broken glasses are much like Clementine's hair, where she was just straight up could have long hair or short hair, and it really wouldn't matter. So I was nowhere close to her. I moved it further away, and it still did it. Yeah, let's just miss all these and see what happens. It doesn't matter. Like, this is just the problem in general with Telltale games. Is that, yeah, there's some game over elements, certainly, but a lot of these just don't matter at all. And more than any of the other Telltale games, your decisions don't feel like they matter. Because I can't imagine playing as a character. Like, the only scenario I could think would have been worse is if you just straight up were putting a script in front of my face and telling me how to react, and we were doing a like Telltale's attempt on something like role playing via script. Like if we were doing Romeo and Juliet, for instance, or if they went in that direction and they told you the exact lines of dialogue you had to say and the exact actions you had to say, that's about the only way you could have made this experience worse. And this would have worked a lot better had they gone the route of, say, the Ghostbusters video game, where they have you playing as a new character, doing a new story, fighting new enemies. So then we could have easily been somebody like Lucas Fox or something, that even a recognizable character that you're playing as, but just not playing as Batman. We could even have been a Robin, frankly, and then Batman could have been Batman and the established character making all the lines of dialogue. That would make a lot more sense. But yeah, you can definitely see why this falls apart. Whereas the Telltale Song of Fire and Ice, what is that called? Game of Thrones, yeah. The Telltale Game of Thrones game really worked around that fairly nicely because you were playing as a totally new character in a totally different time. So it didn't have to really affect the canon. But yeah, you definitely created Catch-22 where people would want to play as Batman, but then I personally feel the need to play as Batman, the Batman that's established. Even writers for the Batman comic series aren't really allowed to do too much with Batman. Like, you can't make him crazy, you can't make him have different feelings or different ideas. You can maybe change his girlfriend, maybe change his attitude a little bit, but not by that much. There are very set in stone elements that have to be part of a Batman story, and yeah, this really just exacerbates that even further to the level of the consumer, where like you can't have Batman saying whatever you want to have him say. Arguably, Telltale games would be more interesting if they came out today. Like the very first Walking Dead Telltale game came out today, and it was just microphone operated and some kind of like Google voice, deep learning, artificial intelligence. And so you could just say any line of dialogue and it would make it sound like it was Batman saying that line of dialogue, and then it would try to interpret what you said well enough to come back with several different responses. But yeah, that technology probably is not polished enough to even do that now. Anyways, we've gone long enough, so that's going to be it for this episode. Apologies for a long setup. That tends to always be the case in the first setup. We'll go back to the Classics Edition, because I hate the Shadows Edition. It's a stupid idea. Like, somebody should have left that on the cutting room floor as an idea to begin with. Like, I could effectively get 75% there to the Shadows Edition just by turning down the saturation of colors on my TV by a certain amount. Not 100%, but maybe taking it down to like 25%. You don't need that as a game feature. It would have made a lot more sense to really reskin the characters and put them in different costumes, or reskin the characters so they are flat 2D characters. Alright, though, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.